Boker Tov, Chaverim, and welcome once again to Heartfelt Haftarah. You can see I'm wearing my Ukrainian kippah, and by the looks of my forehead, it appears that I've actually been to Ukraine and I've been hammered by artillery. That's actually my dermatological treatment. They are constantly zapping things on my forehead because I have these little precancerous things. So every 3 months, I get my face frozen. So no worries, I'm fine. But it's not the most elegant presentation, I have to admit. All right, so we are moving into a new book of the Torah, into the book of Exodus, or as it's known in Hebrew, Shemot. And it is the story, of course, of how we start as people settled in the land of Egypt, in the land of Goshen, which is up on the delta of the Nile. Everybody will remember the Nile runs south to north and dumps into the Mediterranean. But in any case, so the story is the story of our downfall, as it were, how we end up becoming slaves in the land of Egypt, and then Moses is selected out through his unique biography and then is sent back by God to bring the people out of their enslavement. So the Haftarah is an odd one. It's an interesting selection, and one has to get fairly allegorical to get it. So let me start with a little tent peg business. So yes, we are fighting vampires this week. Here we go, Isaiah. We're going to be reading Isaiah chapter 27, chapter 28. And who is Isaiah? Yeshayahu is his Hebrew name. And it literally means salvation of Adonai, but it also has its roots. Yeshu is Joshua, one of the many variations on the name Joshua that appears in the Hebrew Bible. We talked about that in the past. So anyway, Isaiah is the wordiest of all of our prophets. 66 chapters, the longest book in the Hebrew Bible. So it's worth contemplating who he is. Now, I guess we'll start by saying Isaiah may be more than one person, probably is. So look at in 66 chapters, it has long been recognized for centuries that there is a major stylistic shift that happens after chapter 41 through 39 is of a certain style, a certain voice. From 40 on, the voice changes radically. And then when you get to the final, I don't know, 6, 8, 10 chapters, the voice changes again. And so this has led to the critical theory that, in fact, what we have here are 3 different authors, all operating under the name Isaiah. We are familiar with this in our own history. Oftentimes there are people who write under certain names. If you pick up The Economist, for example, there is a column written by Bagshot. And Bagshot was an economist writing in the 19th century. And it's actually the staff of The Economist writing under the name of this English 19th century economist. So you could be misled into thinking it's the same person when in fact it isn't. And that's probably what's going on here. So people will talk about Isaiah, Deutero-Isaiah or second Isaiah, and Titro-Isaiah, the third Isaiah. So what else helps us understand that this may be, in fact, 3 different voices? And that is one, that Isaiah in the 8th century, which is when the original Isaiah writes and gives us the most historical details for us to locate him in his historical environment. 8th century Southern Kingdom, a priest also a prophet, and he speaks quite directly to a number of external political events like Assyrian invasion, the Assyrian invasion that destroys the northern kingdom, and of course has ramifications for the southern kingdom, and other details like that. And he speaks specifically about certain kings of Judah. And so we can position that fairly easily. Second Isaiah, Deutero-Isaiah, talks a lot about exile and recovery from exile. Very short on the specifics, long on wonderful, wonderful rhetoric. And so it is widely held that this second Isaiah was writing during or immediately following the Babylonian exile. And then the third Isaiah, well, he's sort of trending into a late genre of writing in Israelite Jewish tradition, and that is apocalyptic writing. And so he may be a generation or more after Deutero-Isaiah. So how do we make sense of this? Well, it's not entirely impossible that an editor just saw the name Isaiah attached to all these different oracles and he jammed them all together. Or a more coherent theory is that Isaiah becomes not just an individual prophet, but a school of prophecy. And we do see evidence of the idea that prophets would get disciples and disciples would carry on their traditions, master and disciple kind of thing. So it may be that what we're reading is writings from the school of Isaiah that managed to survive through the exile. So there's the 10-peg introduction to all of this. Now, the person we're going to be listening to, the voice we're going to be listening to is first Isaiah in 27:28. And this is the angriest Isaiah by all stretches of the imagination. Doesn't pull any punches, very upset with the people of Israel and Judah for their many moral and spiritual failings. Second Isaiah is very much more into offering comfort, nechemta, as we would say in Hebrew, consolation. Not first Isaiah, he's angry, but he does have a sense of what could be described as meta-history. He sees that history moves in certain patterns. And you can see that in his teaching. So on the surface, it's really hard to figure out why this particular passage was selected to go with the first Torah portion of the book of Exodus. The first Torah portion of the book of Exodus is about us falling into exile, not falling into exile, falling into slavery, and the story continues. This particular Isaiah has a few nice things to say at the beginning, and then he launches into a long diatribe against the excesses of the Israelites and the Judahites in his own time. And he seems to use not just idolatry, but drunkenness and intoxication as his signal sin, as his great offense that the people have fallen into. And the result of these things is that the people in the South are destined to fall and be punished by God, just as the people in the North have just been punished by God. So again, connecting the Haftarah to the Torah portion is not so completely obvious. But if we go to a more archly allegorical way of reading it, I would say this, that it's about exile, both in the past and the exile that Isaiah imagines has just happened to the northern kingdom and will happen to the southern kingdom. And so that parallel of exile is built in there. And I would go a little further. Isaiah starts out talking about God's commitment to the people Israel. He talks about the horror of what has happened to the northern kingdom, and then he goes on to criticize drunkenness in the northern kingdom and drunkenness in the southern kingdom. But then he goes on and offers the promise that there will again be a restoration. So let's think of it this way. There's all kinds of ways to find ourselves in exile. Maybe we can find ourselves in physical distress in a foreign country. We can find ourselves being made slaves or subjected to outside forces. But maybe there's a second kind of exile, and that's the exile that comes from overabundance and excess that follows on that overabundance. And so maybe what we can learn from this is that we need to develop our sense of self-restraint lest we get lost or cut off from the most essential things in our lives. And so we can take Isaiah to be talking to us about intoxication on all kinds of levels, right? That if we are blessed the way we are today with as many resources and as much wealth and so fortunate in all the dimensions of our lives, it's very easy to become self-indulgent and to become distracted and to focus on things that are not important and make them our priority. And this leads to a kind of exile from ourselves, from our most essential humanness and our most essential Jewish values. So if I read it as a parallel way, contrary to the Egyptian experience, but a parallel way to find ourselves in exile, primarily what Isaiah is saying is don't do it, because he's very big on saying that, but also saying that even if you fall into the exile of abundance and excess, God will still open a path to lead us back to our more essential selves and put us back in our home, in the place where we belong. So that's my reading of this difficult Haftarah for this week. And I look forward to talking with you next week.